Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Sunday Wire. I'm your host, Patrick Henningsen. We're streaming out live on the Alternate Current Radio Network and also at 21stcenturywire.com. It's great to have you with us for this weekly omnibus news and analysis radio program. We're streaming out live on X, Rumble, YouTube, also BitChute, Facebook Live, and Odyssey as well. Thank you so much for joining us this week. We're going to have a very interesting conversation, and I want to direct you as well to up on the X platform. We had a space last night, which ran somewhat late. We had a very good panel, including Ryan Dawson and others, to discuss the topic at hand, and that is, does Donald Trump want a war with Iran? This is the big question everybody is looking for answers to, and we had a great discussion. You can find that on our X feed at 21Wire. If you just go to our feed there, you'll be able to listen to the recording of that. It was very well attended, but very important conversation. So this is a lot of what we're going to talk about today. There's other things that we want to cover as well. Later in the Overdrive segment, we'll be joined by some members of our team at Alternate Current Radio Network. I think Basil Valentine is also due to join us as well. And also I want to point to people that are on our website right now. Hello to everybody in the 21Wire chat room. And this is our featured documentary this week. It's called The Weight of Chains. This is a fantastic independent documentary. It's about the forced breakup, I should say, the forced breakup of Yugoslavia. So very important documentary, which we're featuring. This is also sort of one of the anniversary dates of the NATO bombing and the destruction of this European country, Yugoslavia, where the EU and NATO forced to change borders of a country in an unprovoked attack on a sovereign member state of the United Nations. An unprovoked attack by NATO, a full-scale bombing by NATO. So it's very rich that they're lecturing the Russians over Ukraine on some of these issues, especially when it comes to recognizing Crimea. Let's not get into the debate about Kosovo and the merits of that fake state that's really, if you drill down to it, is just basically a beachhead for NATO. In Europe, another beachhead right on the border of the Balkans there, and facing Russia. So that's the point of that conflict. So again, The Weight of Chains. We want to encourage people to watch this documentary film up at 21stcenturywire.com. Now, one of the discussions that's kind of quite heady right now, and of course we spoke about it at length last night on the X Spaces. I'm going to bring up on stage the tweet that's going to probably kick off this conversation. This is a statement by Scott Ritter, and Scott has been very outspoken about the prospects of nuclear war. So we'll bring that up on screen, Scott's tweet, and what Iran should do, what we should be doing in terms of negotiations. What Iran should be doing specifically. This is what Scott Ritter is basically asking. I'll bring that up. That's my X feed there. Now, I did a quote tweet and responded to Scott on this. And, some people may take Scott's position on this, but he's also gotten a lot of pushback as well, because he's taken quite a hard position on this issue. So that's my quote tweet. I'll talk about that in a moment. But here's basically Scott Ritter. And basically he's saying, in no uncertain terms, he's talking about national sovereignty, free will, and so forth. So he's saying Iran has taken itself down a path where its nuclear program can be rightly characterized as being one short step from becoming a nuclear weapons program. Okay. And unless steps are taken to reverse this, Iran is at a risk of being assessed by the United States as representing an existential threat, both to the U.S. and its regional allies. When we say regional allies, let's just cut to the chase. He's talking about Israel. Of course, he's not naming Israel in his tweet, probably because he doesn't want to add another layer of tar to the conversation that unfortunately everything sticks to. This is the problem with Israel in this conversation. But anyway, nonetheless, Scott's claiming that the potential of an Iranian nuclear weapons program is a threat to the U.S. Now, I could go on here and basically saying, that Iran has an opportunity to avoid basically the destruction of its nation and regime change. So that's basically what the warning is here from Ritter. Iran has the opportunity to avoid this outcome by putting its nuclear program on the negotiation table. Now, is he talking about nuclear weapons or nuclear energy? It's all very vague. I suppose he's talking about nuclear weapons. Okay. The problem with this conversation is, and Scott Ritter's saying, this is a regime change and nation-killing action on the part of the Iranians. Okay. So that's what Ritter is saying. So the problem with this conversation, ladies and gentlemen, is that what nuclear weapons program? Okay, and this is my response, obviously to Scott, which you can read up there on screen. But that's my question: is what nuclear weapons program? Where is the evidence that Iran is basically running a nuclear weapons program? And again, we discussed this on the space last night at length, 2 hours and a half. Great discussion with panelists as well. But again, where is the evidence for this nuclear weapons program? That's the problem with this conversation. It's been the problem all along with this conversation. So as Scott Ritter's saying, even the mere threat that Iran is passing the nuclear threshold, that constitutes some level of justification. Obviously, Scott's taking a hyper-realist, maximalist, realist, offensive realist position on this. Basically, might makes right. And the U.S. is the most powerful country with the most powerful nuclear arsenal on the planet, or tied with Russia in that respect. And therefore, if they feel threatened, then they're going to act. There's nothing you can do about it. Submit to the U.S. and come to do a nuclear deal, as Donald Trump is demanding of the Iranians. Otherwise, we're going to launch a preemptive nuclear strike against your facilities. And that's basically what the U.S. is saying there. Okay. So there's a number of problems with this. There's a number of problems, and I'll go down the list. Okay. And first of all, the potential for a nuclear weapons program. So there's no evidence, even according to the United States intelligence assessment, even the most recent statement by the director of national intelligence in the United States, Tulsi Gabbard, who was on this here. We'll bring that up on screen. Signalgate, okay? The director of national intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard. Okay. So even she says there's no evidence, according to the U.S. intelligence assessment, that Iran has a nuclear weapons program. Okay. Even Tulsi Gabbard, the DNI, says this. Okay. So if it's about a country that has the potential to have nuclear weapons, in other words, a country that has a civilian nuclear industry, but doesn't have an active nuclear weapons development program, but could develop a nuclear weapon derived from their potential they have with their civilian program. Okay. So by this logic, then any country that has a civilian nuclear industry can potentially have nukes, or could potentially be secretly developing them. So we have 10 countries that we also need to attack who could potentially have nuclear weapons. This is one of the first points of failure on this argument. Okay. So the reason I'm bringing this up is, of all people, and I'm not saying this as a hard criticism of Scott Ritter. I think he's a great analyst and a great asset to these types of conversations. But I am a little bit surprised that him being the weapons inspector isn't leading with the part of the conversation of where is the evidence? Where is the evidence that Iran has a nuclear weapons program? Where is it? So at this point, we have a rerun of the Iraq War, the run up to the Iraq War. We have a weapons of mass destruction accusation and no evidence. Okay. So at the very bare minimum, shouldn't we, I mean, you see the problem here. So Iran somehow has to convince the US that they're not going to produce nuclear weapons and there's going to be oversight. Well, they already did that. It's called the JCPOA. And this president, Donald Trump, in his first term, yanked their rug out from under it in May of 2018 with his stooge at the time, the Israeli stooge named Mike Pompeo, who was masquerading as Secretary of State at the time. That person was acting on behalf of Benjamin Netanyahu, taking his orders from Tel Aviv. And they managed to strong arm and convince Trump that they needed to tear up the deal. And then Trump went on TV and said, it's a terrible deal. This is a terrible deal. We need to get out of this deal. So Trump didn't even know it was in the deal. I doubt he read it. I doubt he understood it. If he did, any reasonable person wouldn't have taken such an action. Because what he did was basically put the region on course for a huge escalation in tensions. And now he's back in his second term and he wants to somehow do it again or bring Obama's deal back, put his Trump stamp on it, and then somehow this is going to work. That's kind of what Trump is proposing here. Now, this is all well and good if you're not negotiating with anybody, if there's no counterparty. Unfortunately for Trump, there is a counterparty, the Islamic Republic of Iran. Why would, and again, this takes some skill, you have to put yourself and have the vantage point of the counterparty across the table. Why would the Iranians want to do another JCPOA deal with Donald Trump, who they regard as a bad faith actor? And they have a right to regard him as that because he did tear up the last deal. That was a deal that took years to put together with the P5+1. You had all of the European countries. You had Russia. You had the EU. You had everybody on board and the US delegation to glue that thing together. And it was agreed on. And it was working. But a propaganda campaign was launched by the Israelis, Fox News, and the Republican neocon wing of the Republican Party, that this was a terrible deal and it's going to allow Iran to get the bomb in 10 years. It was ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. High grade, high octane BS, basically. But good enough to fool the stupid people who believe this sort of propaganda. And that's history, unfortunately. So why would the Iranians want to sign a deal with Trump that could be undone by the next administration in America in 3 or 4 years? Why? And especially when it's Trump who tore up the last one. Are they going to get a better deal with Trump, or is it going to be a worse deal? Is this any guarantee that they're going to be attacked? Because look at the record of the U.S. The last time there was a WMD threat in the Middle East that the U.S. was taking and managing, Iraq allowed the inspectors in. They did the inspections. Scott Ritter himself involved in that whole process. No weapons of mass destruction, no chemical weapons. So Iraq complied with the, quote, U.S. international community, United States, and the G7, the international community. Iraq, Saddam Hussein complied, and they bombed him into the Stone Age, invaded, occupied, and killed 1.5 million people anyway. So the U.S. record is very poor. With Iraq, they basically bamboozled Iraq into a trap that turned out to be a disaster, not only for Iraq, but for the region. And they did so on behalf of the state of Israel. That's where that policy originates. We can go right back to the 1990s Project for New American Century, the Clean Break document, the words of Benjamin Netanyahu himself browbeating our Congress in the mid 1990s, saying we need to take out Saddam Hussein. I think he did it multiple times in the 90s and 2000s. We need to take out Saddam Hussein, then democracy will flourish in the region. Same with Libya. Look what happened there. Same with Syria, etc. Now Iran, they want Iran. Israel wants Iran, and Trump is their man. So the question is the United States going to be reckless enough to launch a preemptive strike, a preemptive nuclear strike against Iran, which is more or less what's being threatened, or back Israel as they strike Iran, which the U.S. will be fully involved in every aspect of that operation, even if they're not flying the F-35s. Okay, is that how, or are they going to strike Iran in tandem together, a joint operation? Now, a lot of people simping for Trump and MAGA online are bloviating at the moment, like, oh, there's not going to be an attack on Iran, and this is all 5D chess. Trump is just escalating to de-escalate. It's all going to be fine. QAnon said it's all going to be good. Trust the plan. Trust the plan. Okay, if you fall in that category, okay, why bother? Why even bother? Why bother getting up in the morning? Because QAnon has your life figured out for you. Just wait for the drops. You don't have to think. You can switch the brain off. Forget about your education, critical thinking capacity. QAnon will take care of all that for you. Imagine QAnon in a QAnon AI engine. I can't wait for it. So again, I want to point people up to 21stcenturywire.com and also to @21wire, our space here. We covered a lot of the details of this. But back to the conversation. Okay. So Scott Ritter is basically saying that's what has to happen. And my response to that is threefold. Okay. Three important points. One is, of course, what we just mentioned. Where's the evidence of this nuclear weapons program? That's number one. Number two is, and again, we don't have it. We don't have it. Oh, but there's reports from the IAEA. We have radioactive signatures here and there, whatever. That's not evidence. Okay. It's data. Show me the weapons. Well, you can't. Are you going to send in the inspectors? Well, the U.S. already burned that card. Twice. Okay. That's their fault. It's Washington's fault. And it's Israel's fault for goading them to sabotage their own deals. Yeah. That's the problem when you have a foreign country running your foreign policy, is that you do things like this and they have historical implications. So Israel, unfortunately, the legacy of the tight relationship the U.S. has with the state of Israel, where Israel's dictating U.S. foreign policy, these are the type of problems, legacy issues that come along with that. Okay. It's a disaster. But anyway, we'll go on. So even if there was a nuclear Iran, even if they had a nuclear weapon, they wouldn't be a threat to the United States. No more than they would be, than Pakistan is a threat to the United States, or India is a threat to the U.S., both nuclear armed states. No, there's only one country in the region that would perceive Iran, a nuclear Iran, as a threat, and that's the state of Israel. That's it. The Arab countries do not view Iran as a threat unless a war breaks out and they get dragged into it because they're hosting U.S. forces on their bases in Saudi Arabia, the UAE, Qatar, Bahrain. There's even, I think, facilities in Oman. They could be targeted. In Syria, there's a total of, I think, 20 facilities in northeastern Syria, all illegal, U.S. bases and facilities of different sorts. 2 bases in Iraq, Iraqi Kurdistan, Turkey, Cyprus, Egypt, 2 in Israel, plus Djibouti and the illegal occupation of Socotra, along with the UAE. They're everywhere. Diego Garcia, a few thousand miles south in the Indian Ocean. They're everywhere. Okay. So the United States, if they're instigating an attack in Iran, they should expect there's going to be a response. So inherently, though, a nuclear Iran is not a threat to the U.S. It's only a threat to Israel. So if the U.S. strikes Iran and preemptively with tactical nuke bunker busters, okay, they're not doing that for U.S. national security. They are explicitly doing that on behalf of one country, Israel, which is also a country that is currently in the International Courts of Justice on trial for genocide of the native Palestinian population. That's who the United States is backing 100% in the region. Their prime minister is an arrest warrant with the ICC for Benjamin Netanyahu and the former defense minister, Yoav Gallant. Okay, that's who the U.S., that's their interests, are these war criminals and genocidal maniacs running an apartheid state in the Middle East, and there's specific, explicit policy of ethnically cleansing the people who lived there before they arrived and formed their state by force in 1948. And people say, oh, there was a UN partition. There wasn't. It wasn't. What was agreed upon by that first UN resolution was never implemented. And after that, you had the Nakba, and here we are today in 2025, still trying to iron out this horrific problem. Nonetheless, that's what it's about. Okay, Saudi and Iran don't really have any inherent issues. They do have a type of a rapprochement at the moment, but the U.S. and Israel are trying to exacerbate that by bombing Yemen and trying to create more division, painting Yemen as a proxy of the Iranians. Utterly ridiculous. They're not a proxy. Yemen is or Ansar Allah, or aka the Houthis. They have absolute agency on the Arabian Peninsula, and Saudi knows that. So back to the question. So the final point is, and maybe this is the most important point in all of this discussion. So we have bad form by the U.S. And what this comes down to isn't necessarily the overwhelming force of the United States of America. And as Scott Ritter would say, Iran must comply, or the U.S. is going to take out their government, their regime, and then destroy their nation, basically. Because there's a suspicion that they have nuclear weapons. And the U.S. is doing this explicitly on behalf of the state of Israel, who's wanted for war crimes. Okay, that's the frame that we're in. That's the frame. Okay. And we had a nuclear deal that was transparent, that had multiple international guarantors, that the U.S. itself signed on to, the Iran nuclear deal under the Obama administration, arguably one of the more useful things that Obama did while in 2 terms as U.S. president. There weren't many, but that's one of them. Trump tore it up on the orders of Israel. So we have a problem. Iran has no reason to enter into agreement with a country that is not agreement capable, the United States of America. The U.S. did the same thing. The record's even worse. They signed UN Security Council Resolution 2202 for the implementation, more or less, of the Minsk peace process with Russia and Ukraine. And the U.S. and its allies, the French specifically, who are a guarantor of that, they let it lapse, they sabotaged it, and then we got a war in Ukraine. That didn't have to happen. If those parties who had the agreement would have followed through with their obligations rather than sabotage their own agreement, just like Donald Trump has just sabotaged a ceasefire agreement, which he took credit for just a month and a bit ago, coming into office to great fanfare 2 months ago. A ceasefire in Gaza, took all the credit for it, and Israel just tore it up, threw it in the bin 2 weeks ago, and blocked food, water, and medical aid into Gaza, and has been basically assassinating journalists, medical aid workers, killing Palestinians by the hundreds. Okay, no more ceasefire agreement. The U.S. gave Israel the green light to sabotage it and resume the war, not just in Gaza, but also sabotage the ceasefire with Lebanon. So Israel's been allowed to do these things by the Trump administration. So the Russians are looking at the U.S. saying they're not agreement capable with the JCPOA, which Russia signed, the Iran nuclear deal, plus Resolution 2202 with Ukraine. The U.S. destroyed that as well. So Iran, Russia, China, these other countries are looking at the U.S. saying, can we trust the United States? The record is horrible. The results are even worse. Wars. And then the U.S. has the gumption to go and carpet bomb Yemen, the poorest country in the world, because they were basically demanding that Israel stop genociding the Palestinians who were under an illegal occupation. And before Yemen even responded to Israel breaking the ceasefire agreement, the U.S. went in for a preemptive carpet bombing operation, killing Yemeni civilians, guaranteeing that Yemen's going to be at war with the U.S. and that probably there's going to be a disruption in shipping because of what the United States just did. The shipping was flowing during the ceasefire. Does it take, you don't have to be a rocket scientist or a brilliant applied engineer like Elon Musk to figure this out. But apparently, we have a problem in our national security committee in America with people like this that don't have a clue what they're doing. They don't understand half of what we're saying here. So I will drop the final question. So they're demanding, the U.S. is saying, Scott Ritter and everybody else, all the realist pundits, Iran needs to comply because they're the only one who's a nuclear threat in the region. No, they're not. Why should Iran comply with nuclear inspections or the non-proliferation treaty requirements or obligations? Why should they have to do that with no proof that they even have weapons, when the other side of the table, the real party in this, Israel, has nuclear weapons, has 200 to 300 nuclear warheads, and who refuses to allow anybody to inspect or to look or to check on anything they're doing, and have done so since the 1960s, since the assassination of John F. Kennedy. Interesting. Kennedy didn't like the fact that Israel was developing secret nuclear power and nuclear weapons. He didn't like that. He was pushing back against it. And we all know what happened. Are those two things linked? I believe they are. I believe there's plenty of evidence in the JFK files which alludes to that. You see, this is the core of the problem in the Middle East, that the US and its allies are accusing Iran of threatening the region with the potential of a nuclear weapons program, but no evidence. While the state of Israel is blackmailing not just the region, but the world with an undeclared secret nuclear weapons program. And this is allowed to happen. So none of this makes sense. Until you can resolve these three issues I brought up, then what Scott Ritter's proposing and others, that Iran must bend over and comply to the diktats of the West, doesn't make even remote sense to anybody else in the world outside of your little foreign policy bubble or theoretical bubble. Okay, basic game theory suggests basic game theory, negotiations theory, because that's what's going to decide any agreement or treaty in the end. It's politics. It's politics. Basic game theory, if you're threatening the other side with a future attack, or you have, or it's probable that you will attack them in the future, even if they comply, which all those boxes are ticked when looking at the US against Iran, then the party that you're pressuring or you're sanctioning or you're threatening or demanding they comply with some action, they will not comply 99 times out of 100. Because it's that threat of force or future threat of force or punishment that basically takes away any incentive for a change in behavior, whatever that behavior that you want. So it's not going to work with the Iranians. They might engage in some kind of a process just to buy time and see what happens, maybe try to build a coalition against this. But fundamentally, it's not going to work. So I propose a solution. If we want to avoid World War III, how about this? How about we have a JCPOA, bring it back, bring the guarantors back. With Iran, has to come and have inspections and just like before, full transparency, Iran. The other subject of the JCPOA, the new JCPOA, is the state of Israel. Must submit to full inspections, full transparency of their nuclear weapons program and to disarm their nuclear warheads. That way we have no belligerent nuclear powers in the Middle East. Is that fair? Because you can't impose this on Iran and not on Israel, and just say, oh, Israel doesn't exist, we're just going to talk about Iran, because then Israel can blackmail the whole region continually as they've been doing. This is the source of all the problems in the Middle East and geopolitically globally. You have one tiny little rogue state that's holding everybody else hostage with a nuclear arsenal that nobody's pressuring them to comply, to come clean on. This is completely insane. That's the source of the problem here. This is ultimately the source of the Iranian complaint. The West are not listening to Iran. But if they listen close enough, they will hear this. It's a double standard. Therefore, it cannot work. There cannot be any agreements. Therefore, you end up with everybody on war footing. And you can't threaten to destroy countries like the US is doing, threatening Iran, with Israel standing behind it, weighing in on it, like the guy standing behind the nightclub, standing behind the bouncer, basically. You can't have that. You absolutely can't have that. This is why it's not going to work. Okay? This is why it's not going to work. So I I don't know how better to explain this, but there's no other way that we can say this without it becoming clear to people. That's the solution. You want a nuclear deal? You want inspections? Israel has to pony up on the same level as Iran. And then the United States and the international community need to basically take the nuclear weapons away from the state of Israel. And then we have a denuclearized Middle East. Otherwise, if Israel's allowed to have them, then what's fair is Iran is allowed to have them as well. And they'll cancel each other out in the same way that India and Pakistan do. That's fair. We're either going to do this with reciprocity or it's going to end in tears for everybody. And the United States has to basically man up, stop playing games, and stop being a dog on a leash of Tel Aviv. Because this is just not going anywhere productive at the moment. It's just not. So anyway, we could go further on this, but we're going to take a break, and we'll be back. We'll be talking to our team as well after the break, and we'll continue this discussion. We'll also cover Signalgate as well, and we'll probably do another program on this in not so long, maybe during the week. But anyway, I'm Patrick Henningsen. This is the Sunday Wire, episode 541 of this weekly Omnibus News and Analysis radio program, brought to you here at 21stcenturywire.com, also alternatecurrentradio.com. Enjoy the music of Joseph Arthur. This is a new song just released this week. It's called Rise. We'll see you in a few minutes.
Always try to look around for a smile, 'cause maybe it'll come around, maybe it'll come around, maybe it'll come around. We can see over, we can see past, we can see forever, but can we make it last? We can go under, but we can be brave, holding our hearts up, trying to find someone to save. Rise when you hear the cries, and then you make the scene. Run through the hemispheres and learn to live your dream. Rise when you hear the cries, and then you make the scene. Run through the hemispheres and learn to live your dream. We can bear witness, we can be strong, past this isolation, and know we're left to belong. We can rejoice the fears that we had, as we're much more open to the ways we've been had, we've been had. Rise when you hear the cries, and then you make the scene. Run through the hemispheres and learn to live your dream. Rise when you hear the cries, and then you make the scene. Run through the hemispheres and learn to live your dream. Always try to look around for a smile, 'cause
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back. I'm Patrick Henningsen, your host. This is the Sunday Wire, episode 541 of this weekly omnibus news and analysis radio program brought to you here at 21stcenturywire.com. Hello to everybody in the 21 Wire chat room and also alternate current radio, our audience there. And hello to everybody in the ACR chat community, as well as everybody live on X, Rumble, Facebook Live, YouTube, BitChute, and also Odyssey. I think we're live on Odyssey this week. Finally got the live stream fixed for Odyssey, so great to be on that platform as well. We're big fans of Odyssey because of the great service they did to humanity during the COVID censorship regime. It was Odyssey and BitChute and some of these platforms that basically held the fort for everybody else. So we really appreciate them. And we're happy that they're still there and still active. We're going to bring on a couple of our team members here to discuss some of the bigger stories. And again, I wanted to tell people to go to 21stcenturywire.com, and the documentary film is The Weight of Chains. This is about the breakup of Yugoslavia. So we want to point that that's a film that I think everybody needs to watch. It's a groundbreaking independent documentary. So this is part one. It's a 3-part series. The other 2 parts are not publicly available, but this part 1 is. And I think it's a good primer, especially considering this is an anniversary of sorts of the bombing, the attack, the breakup of Yugoslavia by the European Union and NATO. So we want to direct people to that great production there. Let me bring on to the stage right now Basil Valentine. He's political editor at the Pulse.today, and also Bryan McClain, aka Hesher. There he is. Hello, Bryan, from Alternate Current Radio Network as well. And guys, thank you for joining us. And first of all, hope you're well. And I'll pass it around the room. I mean, I'm talking about a little bit about Signalgate. I've got some information on that I can share with us on that. But just general topic, I've put out basically the challenge, which is that let's have a new JCPOA, but let's add the state of Israel in there along with everybody else to declare their nuclear weapons, their nuclear sites, open them to inspection, and then we got a deal. I don't see any problem with that. Do you see anybody that might object to that? You see anybody in the world?
Just all of our politicians, maybe.
I mean, it's fair. Aren't we all about the rules-based international order? And, you know, no country should be able to live by a different set of rules. You know, isn't that why we sanctioned Russia, right? Because they invaded Ukraine, the sacrosanct borders of Europe. So I think it's a perfectly plausible solution to avoid World War III. That's just me. That's my contribution to world peace this week. Basil, what do you think?
Well, you know, as we've seen over the last 18 months, international law has been upended by Israel. It's become completely meaningless. There is no international law. We are in the age of rule by force. It's as simple as that, you know, and Donald Trump seems to embrace it. We've got parallel realities going on at the moment. On the one hand, the vast majority of the world realized that Israel has committed innumerable war crimes. I saw just a couple of days ago a meme posted online, an illustrated picture saying that 16 healthcare workers and ambulance staff had been abducted in Gaza by the Israeli forces and summarily executed, you know, wrists tied behind their back and shot in the head. I mean, this is absolutely off the chart stuff, but we don't hear a whisper about it. Of course, in the Western media, the hundreds of Palestinians that have been maimed and murdered since the so-called ceasefire ended, we don't hear a word about that. And of course, you know, Capitol Hill is totally in hock to the Zionist agenda. And all this, as far as they're concerned, is Hamas's fault. We're in an era of magic words, Patrick. Hamas, terrorist, anti-Semitism. These words can be just chucked where in any direction that they're needed in order to absolve the aggressor and the criminal of all or any responsibility. Either that, of course, or as is the case with the disgraceful British government, it's simply ignored if the same atrocities were happening anywhere else in the world, let alone being inflicted on Israel by its neighbors. Well, we'd never hear the end of it. But as it is, endlessly, the Foreign Office, Downing Street, corporate press, always downplaying Palestinian suffering, downplaying, the gravity of the situation, really, which is the worst in our living lifetimes. We're going to come on in a minute to the jackboot Gestapo tactics now being introduced in Britain to suppress people who are objecting to genocide. That's where we are now. If you object to genocide, you're basically some sort of dissident or criminal at worst. But if you openly embrace it, well, you get a seat in the cabinet.
We'll get on to some of those things in a moment. So Hesher, your thoughts on this, and do you see this situation connected with Signalgate?
Well, I mean, first off, the situation is pretty much as we predicted. Go back to the first week or two of Trump administration. Presidency 47. You said it on many shows. We've said it on Boiler Room. This is going to be the biggest threat that we've got moving forward, is the geopolitics aspect. And right now, I can't help but notice just how the influencers and ambassadors of the MAGA camp are, using those sort of, those toxic, those politically weighted words that Basil was just mentioning. They throw around anti-Semitism, they throw around all this other stuff, and those talking points are like echoing through the you are the media sphere, right, on X right now. And anyone that is coming up with good ideas like yourself there, Patrick, it's a great idea. It's funny how many wonderful ideas there are out there to create a peaceful situation, or at least one that is not edging towards utter disaster for so many people. And those influencers and ambassadors out there, they get their talking points every day. I don't mean to be one of those people that's like, oh, they're shill paid opposition, but when it comes right down to it, that's exactly what's going on. I was when I was on the Pulse yesterday, or on Friday, I was talking about I was highlighting a social media post by Ian Smith, actually, and he was breaking down the way that this actually works, because he's been in there. He is a person that rose to a meteoric social media presence, and by no choice of his own, it ended up in the right-wing MAGA sphere, sort of. That's and he's the perfect example of someone who was just reacting to the to COVID. He's like, no, I'm not going to close my business down. This is stupid. And he made that his mission on TikTok. He made that his mission on Instagram, to make sure that he used those platforms just to let people know what was going on and what he thought about it. And then he achieves, magically, organically, he achieves escape velocity on social media. He becomes a undeniable force, similar to Ian Carroll and others that we've seen. But I think Ian is a really good example, because he gets it. He really understands the situation. And he mentioned in his post that hey, I've been inside this system. I didn't understand this system. I'm inside it now. I ended up inside it. I could see a lot of offers coming my way where we're total just a waste of time and total garbage, but others are they sound great on the face of it. It's like you become that on social media, and all of a sudden you've got people coming at you saying, hey, would you like a social media manager? Or He even mentioned this company called Influenceable, and Influenceable is well known in these spheres, I guess, and they pay influencers and ambassadors, give them brand deals and all that other stuff. And the next thing you know, you're in a list of people who are getting elevated by people like Elon Musk, and are getting these giant boosts to your posts, but your talking points are the same exact ones you'll find on Cernovich's channel or Liz Wheeler's channel, or even Megyn Kelly, like a lot of these people that a lot of us like in many cases, especially when it comes to national politics, which is what they focus on. And I think that's a big part of this, is like focus on the national politics, focus on the culture war, focus on all that low hanging fruit, own the left, own the left, own the left. You really get all this momentum. And then all of a sudden, you see something like we saw from Scott Ritter today, where it's like, oh, okay, well, and then you've got all these legions of people that follow these accounts and are influenced by these ambassadors. And the next thing you know, like, you've got the whole MAGAsphere winging or using leftist tactics and using character assassination, ad hominem, all that kind of stuff. So it's been really the worst part of sort of the resurgence of populism we've had here in the second version of Trump, and it's led to people being skull plugged, and dragged around by the nose and ready to accept a larger war in the Middle East. And it's just like, how can you be that way when everything has failed? I mean, in Israel's mind, everything we've done there has been a win, but for us, for our veterans, for our citizens, for our economy, for our stability, for our national security, none of that has been good. It's all been bad. So, and now we're just going to watch these people stuff, the final phase of the PNAC plan down everybody's throats, while people in red hats are going to run around and cheer and, ask for more pagers and, stupid stuff like this. So, I don't know if any of our good ideas are going to fall on any ears that are not deaf.
Well, I mean, I just want to comment on I'm hearing a lot of the same rhetoric that I did before the Iraq War. So and I'm sure you have too, Hesher. It's eerily familiar. I remember it, and remember it well, and I'm not keen to live through that again. But we are kind of living through part of it right now. So are we going to have the same result in the end? Maybe not an invasion and occupation, but certainly use of nuclear weapons against another country by the United States. Okay, so I hear the same rhetoric, and what they've done is very clever, and they're co-opting a lot of veterans and former military people, as well as people in the military. And the reason they chose Pete Hegseth, who is a complete cowboy, okay, let's be honest. I think we saw it during Signalgate. And bring that up on screen. I mean, look at these people. These people are clowns. Oh, typing too fast, says Mike Walsh. First target, their top missile guy. We had a positive ID of him walking into his girlfriend's building. Now it's collapsed. JD Vance. Excellent. Mike Waltz. Emojis. Flame, fist, American flag. Yay. Yay. Marco Rubio. Good job, Pete, and your team. Oh, it's like a corporate wank, basically. So they're all sitting there, and then Jeffrey Goldberg from the Atlantic there in the lower corner. He's getting a front row seat of all this. This was clearly staged and set up, maybe not with the knowledge of everybody involved, not everybody involved, but here's the real the thing about it is Hegseth lied. He lied 3 times. I could bring the clip, but I just don't have time to load it, because he lied 3 times, and he did it in the press. Waltz lied. I'm sure. He said, "Oh, I don't know how Jeffrey Goldberg's contacts got on my phone." Goldberg says he knew and had spoken to Waltz in print. So he has to live by that in print. Waltz just denied it in a Laura Ingraham, throwaway Fox appearance. Hegseth lied a couple of times in the media about no battle plans. There weren't any battle plans. There weren't any. Oh, really? No battle plans. Weather favorable. Confirmed. CENTCOM. We are a go. Aircraft F-18s, trigger-based F-18s. First strike window starts. Look at this. I mean, so Hegseth with all the tattoos, all the Crusader tattoos. He's got infidel as well on his right bicep underneath Deuce Volt. Okay, Hegseth, he was chosen to bring all of these veterans on board to think, oh, it's one of us as the head of the Pentagon now. It's one of us. It's not a 5-star general or someone who paid their dues. No, it's someone from the lower ranks. Look at all the tats. He's definitely one of us. He's a Fox News guy, a weekend host from Fox and Friends. Great show. So he's one of us. He's one of us. That's why they chose him. They want that demographic on board with a war. That might be a very cynical analysis on my part, but I can't think of any other reason why you would put someone whose highest rank was major as a reservist from like Minnesota or something, who one of his tours on his resume is Gitmo. How can that person be in charge of the entire most powerful military on the planet? It doesn't add up.
Oh, the optics and the narrative are what are most important, and that's disappointing because optics and narrative have been the most important thing to the entire political party and the entire, machinations of the systems that the left loved so much and were in charge of. And we're not really seeing that look much differently here now, at least with regards to geopolitics. When it comes to national politics, it's a little bit different, but it's still a matter of branding, PR, and narrative management. Those are the most important things. So, you can't, and this is kind of what I've been saying for a minute here now, is like, this is the new politic. This is what new politics are going to look like. And we're going to get a lot of people that are, well drummed up, well trained, well versed in narrative management and understand how to deliver their talking points in the new way, in the new media style, right? And a big part of that is that personal branding. That's why you're seeing people, largely media people. I mean, sure, you could argue that, but when you look at Tulsi Gabbard, when you look at Hegseth, when
Tammy Bruce,
yeah,
Tammy Bruce,
Bongino, I mean, all these people say a lot of things that I would agree with, most of the day. But then when as soon as they leave the borders and they start talking about the Middle East or anything else, it's like, wait a minute, this does not jive with what you've said in the past. This doesn't jive with, actually making America first. This doesn't jive, with so many things. So it's brilliant what they've done. It's literally brilliant what they've done, how they've done it, how they've taken personalities like Hegseth and Gabbard and others over multiple years and sort of slowly evolved them from where they were when they were, slightly more organic personalities to where they are now, where it's super polished. It all dovetails together. That's one thing they've done really well, is sort of getting that unification amongst themselves of the messaging. And the messaging is super powerful now, and it feels younger, and it's drawing in more people that, that just don't pay attention to crusty old, white political Zionist style people. But these are the new ones. This is the new model right here that we're seeing. And it's very polished. And I think that their shields are up. They have their own little mental iron domes, and they are incapable of hearing a message like yours today.
And just bring this, so basically this signal chat again, I think why it was set up, and what the intent was, that's up for debate. I did an analysis on this on the UK column, but there's the battle plans, which were shown to a journalist, an anti-Trumper, by the way, before the actual military operation. And the laugh of this, besides denying it, if you scroll further down that signal chat, you'll see Hegseth says this, which I find to be so poetic and funny, but not in the way that is his benefit. More to follow as per timeline, says Pete Hegseth. We are currently clean on OPSEC. Really? How clean are you? You just sent it all to the Atlantic magazine before the attack. I mean, what a clown. Godspeed to our warriors. our warriors. Look, this guy. I mean, how can
Yeah, I
you?
mean, the real scandal, as far as I'm concerned, a lot of other people, is the fact that the United States is, first of all, it denies that the Yemen's action, the Houthis' action, is anything to do with Gaza. So do the British government. They like to pretend it's just this rogue bunch disrupting shipping in that part of the world just for the sake of it. Really, they can't think of anything else to do. When in fact, as we know, Houthis are the only ones in the world respecting the diktats of international law, which state that it is incumbent on all countries to prevent genocide. It's as simple as that. The United States is way outside the remit of what civilized nations are supposed to do in these circumstances. And you get, as a result, sort of essentially glorified thugs like Pete Hegseth. I mean, if he was British, you would put him on the terraces as one of the early middle-aged football fans, hooligans, basically, because that's what he is. But Trump is an instinctive politician. He couldn't care less whether Hegseth's previous highest rank was major or admiral of the fleet. He likes the bloke and likes his opinions. And oh well, he was in the army as well once. That's even better. So you get the job. There's no due diligence around his picks at all. Now, in a couple of cases, we hoped that would be to the benefit of those of us on the right side of history, with the appointments of Tulsi Gabbard and Robert F. Kennedy Jr. But as we've seen in recent days, those two have completely caved in to the usual suspects and are indistinguishable from any other neocon. I mean, this is the problem, really. It's now essentially, to all intents and purposes, with that idiot Mike Huckabee as ambassador to Israel and Rubio at state. And then, as I say, just this sort of glorified thug at the Defense Department, an ignoramus. You've got I mean, it's arguably worse than Bush II's cabinet, because at least with the likes of Donald Rumsfeld, you had people who were seasoned politicians and who realized that they had to at least pay lip service to the mores of international law. Whereas this bunch, particularly since they are so in bed with this exterminationist regime in Tel Aviv, they don't give a damn what anybody says or does. They see no constraints whatsoever, moral, diplomatic, intellectual, humanitarian, or otherwise, on their power and their willingness to use it. I mean, the casual way in which their top missile guy, as if we're dealing with a cartoon or something,
It's
walking
back
into.
Do you remember Chemical Ali and that whole carry on with Iraq? This is just the kind of comic book characterization of,
Yeah,
it's for them, it's just a video game, basically.
absolutely, and of course, in the destruction of that building, I've no doubt lots of innocent people were killed as well, but couldn't care less about that. So we're in a very, very dark place. We hoped for better from Trump. I'll admit it. If you put a gun to my head and if I'd had a vote in the election, well, I'd have said, well, I'd have voted for Jill Stein, obviously, but of the two, Trump appeared to be a better bet than Harris, but he's turned out to be every bit as bad.
There's a comment there, Adrian Dittman. Are we graced with the presence of Elon Musk's proxy here? Adrian Dittman, Assad also had secret police and it was necessary considering what's happened. Absolutely true. That's a statement of fact by Adrian Dittman there. And some other interesting comments from different people. This is Sam As I Am. This Death Star nation has been ravaging sovereignty of, quote, any place in our way forever. We just got to where it can't be concealed anymore. And obviously the psychopaths in charge don't care. 100% correct.
Correct.
There's somebody, Basil is 100% correct. Of course, we know that. Everything he says falls under that banner, 100% correct. And there's a few other good, I think, encouraging comments here. But yeah, some interesting feedback from our audience here. Say, oh, what's this? The Putin shirt is always active in our threads. What's MAGA doing? Loving their new regime. Exactly. Exactly. Not all MAGA are happy, though, with what's going on.
No,
Not all
I'm
MAGA.
very pleased to see that, but what can they do about it now? That's the thing. There's no mechanism to, replace any of these people or for Trump to change direction. I mean, I've heard that Trump is a bit fed up with Netanyahu, but I mean, he's still giving him the green light to massacre as many people as he wants. So,
Yeah, all the MAGA people that are upset about this can do about it now is be deranked. That's what you can do about it. You can be less popular on X. You can talk, you can be in these
that's
conversations
right.
like we are, but you can be visibility filtered. You can be deranked. You can be
You're free to like and subscribe till your heart's content. Go
yeah,
follow Joe Rogan and who's the
right.
other one?
What
Who's
I
the-
was told is just by virtue of the way the system works is you can give us another couple $100 so that you can still stream video here and you'll still get 200 views instead of 2,000 views or whatever, however they do their little their number voodoo over there in the algorithm ghetto.
Yeah. I mean, there's great life hacks too. If you're having trouble sleeping, you can save money on sleeping solutions or insomnia medication, whatnot, just by watching Lex Fridman. Puts you to sleep within usually between 30 and 45 seconds. It's the best thing I've ever discovered. So yeah, that we've got a lot of choices, Hesher, of course. I like this comment though more than any other. I appreciate the opinions and analysis of Basil, Bryan, and Patrick. They're brilliant and thought-provoking. I swear I did not pay hey yay to say that. That was done completely voluntary. Thank you very much. We're humbled by your great feedback. We'll leave that one up there for a few minutes just to motivate you guys. No, it's yeah, you can't do a lot, but Trump still has to think about the next the midterms. Listen, the Republicans could tank it in the midterms. This is the problem with Republicans. They like victory laps too much. Okay, they quickly forget how deeply in the doldrums they were in opposition, and they're celebrating and owning the left and all this other garbage, and not doing the groundwork and figuring out what the issues are. And this issue with Elon Musk and Tesla, okay, if the people on the right and Elon especially, who is politically completely doesn't have a clue about anything, he knows what he can buy and purchase. That's it. Who he can purchase. Okay. Where is this coming from? If you have to ask and you can't figure this out, then your political instincts are like that of an encephalopod. It's obvious what happened. It's absolutely obvious is that Elon built his empire on the left. He built his empire on the left, and they are not happy. They want they want their money back. Okay, he bought his way into politics. He paid the right people, and then as soon as that ship was sinking, he parked his money onto the next one to secure his fortune. That's kind of what happened. Okay, so this is why everyone who drove a Tesla as a status symbol on the left are somehow feeling betrayed now, because they realize that this guy, this tech lord, is now shitposting on X 24/7, and turns out he's a deeply committed racist, a white supremacist, and he's bankrolling the worst people in Europe you can imagine. And he's basically on a leash. The Israeli lobby and Bill Ackman and everyone else have him on a leash, basically. Ben Shapiro, Rabbi Shmuley, I mean, Shmuley's got everybody on a leash, it seems. Super glue, Rabbi Super Glue. He's stuck on RFK, Tulsi, probably Elon too. So, I mean, it shouldn't take a rocket scientist to work out why they're rebelling, why they don't like Tesla. Is it because of all this sort of the way you have to believe that you have to, quote, own the left? If you're Hesher, if you're a billionaire and you're the richest man in the world, not just a billionaire, richest man in the world, okay, and you're lauded as a genius, okay, what would compel you at that point to want to go and make enemies of half the world? I mean, and to go down to gutter level discussions and to be sort of championing people like Tommy Robinson. If you're up there, why would you go down to the gutter? This is the part I can't work out. Where's the appeal there? And did you think this is not going to end? It was some kind of a train wreck at the end. I don't know. I'm baffled with Musk.
Well, if you're the richest man in the world and everybody thinks you're a genius and you've got, umpteen dozen women wanting to serve as some sort of incubator for you because of whatever, you're not really in the same mindset as everybody else. And I think that the thing with I would think that the richest man in the world who has so many government contracts and has for many years across, administrations, I would think you might be in on some insider information. I don't know. Maybe is it possible, everybody, that Elon Musk has maybe a better idea of where the ship is headed than the rest of us, and is he going to pick an ideology that really resonates with him and go for it in a polarized world where you're gonna, publicly you're going to ostracize everybody who brought you there, pretty much everybody who bought your stuff, all these progressive liberals, green new deal people who just months ago wanted to mandate that we all buy Teslas, now want to pull over on the highway driving their 70, 80, $90,000, $100,000 SUVs and stop someone in a Tesla behind them and yell at them and shame them and throw things at their car, key their car. Like, that just goes to show the mental state of a lot of these people that have been weaponized. And you kind of went down the path to the destruction, the tearing down of Elon in a leftist mind. I think they don't get quite as far as you went there. They don't get quite as far as the wars. They don't get quite as far as all the Israeli money coming in and the political Zionism that's wrapped around it. Like, they don't even have to get that far because they still are dealing with media implanted orange man derangement syndrome, and they just project that everywhere. And unfortunately, they've weaponized people with schizophrenia. That guy that firebombed the Tesla dealership in Las Vegas, if memory serves, ended up, a schizophrenic, a qualified schizophrenic. This is, and after all these years of telling people, oh, Trump's dog whistling and, right wingers are racist and white supremacists and all that. It's like, no, the media has actually been dog whistling to schizophrenic people and people with mental disabilities for a long time and polarizing them. So back to Elon and your question, he's going to do whatever's best for technocracy. He's going to do what he thinks falls in line, maybe in some way that he's shaped in his worldview that's the best possible outcome considering what he knows is coming next. It has, so for him to jump, he's picked a side here. He's picked the identity politics side. He's flopped from one to the other, just like Tulsi, just like some of these other people in this administration. And I have a feeling it's because they have an idea of what the path forward looks like, and that this particular epoch that we're in right now requires the Republican Party to be in power, requires populism to be in full force, and requires that whole social media blanket and PR, snazzy PR sort of social media style for this new administration, which will be the style moving forward. Everybody, these old, your Mitch McConnells and your Pelosi's and You know, I know you don't want to hear it, but even Trump, you know, he's on his way out as far as like longevity and political years. It's going to look very different. It looks very different now. It's going to continue to look very different. And this very different social media driven presentation of what politics is going to escalate, and it's going to just be, AI is going to get involved. Traditional journalism will be downplayed and downplayed, and those ambassadors and influencers will tell you how to think, and their AI messages to them will tell them how to think, and the talking points will be standard across the board. And it's not going to be, the kind of politics that we've been used to. We've all even us, Gen X, complaining about all the old crusty white dudes that are in charge of everything. Well, guess what? The old crusty white dudes are on their way out, and they're going to be replaced by Tulsi Gabbards and Pete Hegseths and Elon Musks, and that's what it's going to look like.
A couple of things you said, which I wanted to try to grasp there. Let me see. One of them is identity politics. So the right, the woke right, has adopted extreme identity politics in the shape of what Elon Musk is pushing. Basically, he started a war with South Africa, basically saying that South Africa is racist against white people. Okay, let's just not litigate apartheid South Africa for now. Okay, let's do that at another time in another program. Okay, and then deporting people for protesting Israel on U.S. campuses. I mean, a full-on violation, kidnapping them with mask teams. Somebody who's on a Fulbright scholarship at Tufts. That's not easy to get a Fulbright scholarship. Okay, not easy. And they kidnapped her because she wrote an op-ed against Israel, basically. So Rubio's in on it. So they're into the woke right is weaponized. Identity politics, right-wing populism. They're going to create a backlash for the next couple election cycles, and they want to bring back hard leftism. That's why they're doing it. And this is the game that the establishment is playing. And it's going to end up, as you said, Hesher, right back in the technocracy camp. And I left this comment at the bottom here from U.S. Navy vet, Fox News guy Pete Hegseth. He ran a poll saying, should we rename the Department of Defense to the Department of War or the War Department? Now, I left that up. He says that's the real true name. Yeah, it was the real true name. But we sort of evolved as we did, away from 1790. So we're 2025 now. Do you want to go back to the Department of War? And if so, war against who? Which country in the world is threatening American freedoms? Name me one.
Well, America is threatening its own freedoms. That's the whole point.
Bingo, Basil Valentine, you win the award. We should get a badge to come up on screen. You answered the question perfectly. America is the only threat. And last thing I'll say, Basil, sorry, but Pete Hegseth, and you notice they're using a new term. So we don't have soldiers anymore. We have war fighters. What war?
Yeah,
where are the wars? Where
the whole reason why? Of course, as we all know, the United States has been at war on and off, endlessly since the end of the Second World War, even though that's not what the founding fathers had in mind at all. So it would be more accurate to call it the Department of War, certainly. But people like Pete Hegseth think that war causes death, destruction, and misery, and is extremely expensive as well in terms of blood and treasure. So, some reason in the last 25 years since 9/11, all the lessons learned of the 20th century, there's horrible slaughters of World War I, and then, of course, the millions killed in World War II. That's all completely forgotten now. War is once again a great thing. Search me as to why. It's a sort of form of psychopathy, really. But
look up on screen. War looks like fun, doesn't it? Doesn't this look like a lark?
Let's see Pete Hegseth on the front line. But in terms of the other point you were making about the America being the only threat to American freedoms. I've just learned that the leaders of Harvard University's Center for Middle East Studies are leaving their positions because, of course, they offer some criticism of Israel, and you're not allowed to do that. Basically, we've come down to the point where if you criticize Israel, you're pro-terrorist. That's basically the equation that the administration is trying to make. Doesn't matter what Israel does, doesn't matter how many babies and children, women it murders and mutilates. It could be 1 million. But if you criticize it, then you are on the support of terrorists. And then once again, there's one of those magic words, terrorists. It doesn't matter what actually happens on the ground. It just matters how we label them. What's happening on the ground, of course, is that Israel is committing genocide. But because Zionism has woven itself into the fabric of the corporate media and Washington, of course, then it's able to present reality as something else altogether. We also had the head of Columbia University. She resigned just the day before yesterday or something. And Trump is looking to insert his own people to monitor the Middle East studies departments in all these. Basically, Zionists are going to be watching everything that's said in these Middle East studies departments at elite universities to make sure nobody points the finger at Israel. I mean, it's really absolutely off the chart stuff.
No, they're really going extreme on this, and I think this is an indication that that ship is about to sink. And so I think, and also, while they're killing a lot of people in Gaza, and a lot of activists might feel exasperated at this point. If you look at trends on protest movements, there's always a spike of the behavior that everyone's protesting spikes.
Of the repression.
Yeah, and the repression goes up, and then the enthusiasm goes down. But then after that comes a systemic failure on the establishment side, because they've basically lost the public because of all their draconian actions. So this is a pattern that's been, I think they call it the Moyer chart by Bill Moyers, the Moyer chart. And right now they're at that peak repression. And that's when you get a change in policy comes after that. So we've hit the hump, and then it's going to come down. So it's not, there is some hope there, of course. But yeah, so I don't have a lot of confidence in these people, guys. I mean, let's just be honest. This does not inspire confidence. Just the fact that they got roped into a Signal chat where they should be doing secure video conferencing. I mean, it's not as if there's not like facilities or, virtual skiffs that you can have these chats in. I mean, Hesher, you're sort of familiar with this world. I mean, are you telling me there's no proprietary government facilities, virtual or real, where you can have these? I mean, come on, seriously?
One thing I can say about a skiff is it's really inconvenient. You can't take your cell phone in, you can't take your laptop in. You have all these extra logins. You got to carry extra badges. You got to put all your gear, all your tech in a locker before you go inside. You got to log on to their archaic systems. Usually, these things are in the basement of some building, on a sub level. They're dreary. There's no windows in them. They literally have propaganda all over the walls, like World War II style propaganda pictures, like, with some Chinese animated character, like looking over someone's shoulder, looking over the military guy's shoulder or something like that with a slogan. I mean, it's all it's totally inconvenient. So if you're Pete Hegseth and you're Trump's team and you're running around and, you just sent your assistant off to Starbucks to bring you, double, triple foamy latte, no salt, triple whatever. You don't have time to go down to the skiff. That's going to take 2 hours out of your day. So why not just set up a Signal group? That's what our analysts say is probably the best encryption, and we can talk at a certain level in a group while we're still, sitting there next to Carolyn Levitt, outside of the dreary confines of the skiff. So, is it just, I mean, one could argue that this is just, laziness and sort of a slumping into a new style of administrating and doing this kind of stuff. Or, I'm kind of the mindset that this was a planned PR thing, or just a giant stepped in a turd thing, one of the two, or a giant stepped in a turd thing that has been, spun into a PR thing. Because, we've got judges stepping in now. The same judge that's trying to block Donald Trump's deportation of, Tren de Aragua and MS-13, wants to block that, he's the one that's been put in charge of looking at this whole signal thing. There's already been over 160 legal injunctions against this administration. And I think the last administration of his, in the entire 4 years, it was like 60 or something like that, so we're orders of magnitude already like deep into the lawfare here. So, and people are looking at it, but I don't think they're looking at the longer term picture of this. It's like, if we're only 3 months into this thing and we've already got, sub 200 injunctions and lawsuits going by judges, DC judges, who, by the way, never had a job as a judge before they were appointed by, Clinton and Obama and even Bush in some cases. So, this is going to just turn into a legal quagmire. This is going to be an absolute legal quagmire. And I wanted to quickly address your Hegseth's idea about changing it to the Department of War. You asked, like, what war? And it's like, well, whatever they want. It doesn't even have to be a place anymore. They declared, remember, President Trump said when he was 45 that he was a wartime president because of COVID. He said, we're at war against a virus. Like, you want to have a Department of War. What are we actually at war against? Well, we've declared war on terrorism, and we can just apply that anywhere we see fit, even right here at home. Don't forget, MAGA people, you were considered terrorists, and probably still are, by the FBI for the last, more than a decade, going all the way back into the Obama administration, even further back. We could talk about Ruby Ridge and all that stuff, but, I won't drag everybody down that rabbit hole. So, war on terror, wherever they may find it, however they may define it. War on virus, war on what? Being mean, right? That's like
war on drugs.
War on drugs. Yeah, that's a great failure right there, which they've completely reversed after ruining so many people's lives over it. And people are still in jail for nonviolent marijuana crimes, while rappers and Hollywood people and Joe Rogan himself are sitting in studios on camera smoking blunts. It's crazy. It's the pick and choose war. It's a war against your health. They declared a war on dis and misinformation, right? Which is a war on the truth. And when you compile all that together, the only war we have is a war on freedom.
Yeah. A war on hate, a war on domestic extremism, a war on terror 2.0, 3.0, 4.0. Yeah. So yeah, they can manufacture these wars. I mean, I think it's I think there's a public relations overhaul they're trying to do to get people interested and to activate that American war gene, which is always there on the DNA strand, waiting, that neocon gene that exists in a certain percentage of the population that are going to be activated immediately if they feel they're under threat and the flag comes out and Fox News Wolf Blitzer starts getting fired up, and like it's automatic basically. So I mean, that's what I think. I think they're trying to get the country back to that. I think it's an act of desperation, though. It's a bit hollow. It's a bit fake. Okay, and Pete Hegseth is completely fake. Someone who is just not qualified for one of the most powerful jobs in the world. Why on earth would you put somebody like that in there? I was told that Donald Trump was given a list of cabinet picks. Okay, who gave him the list? Pre-selected, based on what factor? All the foreign policy, defense-related picks had one factor: they had to be loyal to Israel. This is what I was told. Trump didn't select them. He was given a short list. Who compiled that short list? We think it was Howard Lutnick and Jared Kushner, two agents of Israel. So that's how you got Pete Hegseth.
Yeah.
He's a third temple red heifer cultist. He's a self-avowed third templist. Pete Hegseth. He's got infidel and Deuce Volt and all these Jerusalem Crusader crosses, and he's adorned with Crusader paraphernalia on his body permanently. I mean, we're talking about a religious fanatic, even more than Mike Huckabee. Mike Huckabee is a complete religious fanatic, a nut job, who Trump selected as ambassador to Israel. I don't know what to say, but these evangelical end of times people, they've got another agenda that they're not sharing with us. Mike, why don't you tell us what you want to see happen in the next year? You want to see the end of times? You want to see Armageddon? Because that's like your thing, isn't it? Be out. Can you come out of the closet, please, and tell us that's what you want? That's what all the policies that you're pushing for is to have World War III. So it'll be the return of the Messiah, and and that's when things get messy between the Christians, evangelicals, and the Jews.
Yes, it does.
That's when things get messy. Oh, what are you going to do about all the Jewish people then, Mike Huckabee, and all the evangelical Zionists, Christian Zionists? Oh, did I'm talking to the Jewish crowd? Did I say to the Jewish crowd, did you know the Christian evangelists are going to force convert you? Or you're going to die, or whatever's going to happen. I don't know. But you have to convert to Christianity. Are you ready for that? Because that's what the Christian evangelicals say. You have to force convert. See, this whole conversation is bonkers. This is proper nuts.
Yeah,
And this is the level these people are playing at, many of them, in positions of power. This is totally insane. And that goes for Netanyahu as well. I mean, he's there with Rabbi Schneerson, and they have their own version of this, and it's not converting to Christianity. You see that you have all these people who are in this alliance, the Zionist alliance between Jewish Zionists and Christian Zionists, who have two different end times narratives. Not everybody can have it their way. It's not like McDonald's.
yeah.
Not everyone's going to have it their way on this. So, I mean, I find this to be highly, I don't know, Basil, if you have any thoughts on this. The crazies are literally running the asylum right now.
Well, yeah, so I came across that way of thinking at the age of 12, that kind of millennialism. Now, we may indeed be living through what some people would call the end times if we choose to interpret the scriptures that way, but that doesn't necessarily mean we should give energy to the most outlandish outcomes. It doesn't mean that what is going to happen is pre-written. It's up to us to determine the present and the future. And yeah, I mean, people like Hegseth and Mike Huckabee, for that matter, it's a puerile mentality. It really is. Really unevolved, not considered in any way, just tribalist, just plain idiotic, frankly, the way they think.
I think you're being way too kind.
I think I am being too. I mean, it's psychotic as well. That's the thing. It's It's absolutely psychotic.
I mean, back in the day, you had cable TV for these guys. It's like you could
Yes.
talk like that, but the prayer breakfasts and Billy Graham and they have their own football stadiums and their own events. Now it's in the White House. It's on the floor of the Senate. Mike Johnson is Speaker of the House. He's invoking rapture.
Yeah.
That's where we're at in 2025. It's amazing.
And for some of them, if a few nuclear weapons go off, well, so much the better, because that's got to happen.
Yeah, it's going to advance the end times. Yeah, great.
That Jesus Christ is going to appear on the top of a mushroom cloud over Jerusalem, believe it or not.
Something like that.
Yeah, this crazy polarization not only shows up in our society, like amongst ourselves, right? Like it's showing up in the White House. Like, look at the last administration. It was like Caligula's barge over there. You've literally got, people with their breasts hanging out, people with their surgically implanted breasts hanging out while they're, walking around with a wang in their pants. You got someone snorting blow up in the in the Oval Office or some other room. You've got the president's son running around smoking crack. You've got these liars, just these bold-faced liars that these like Maoist little red book style liars and propagandists, and now it comes to this administration, and it's like you've got these religious psychos, and you're right, Pat. These groups will totally have to cannibalize themselves. I mean, that's what progressivism is basically doing right now. I mean, look how feminism can't get along with LGBTQ, blah blah blah, and all these things. They're all fighting amongst themselves now as they see their paradigm sort of dripping away, and watching the other team sort of build up this new shiny paradigm that everybody's like a moth to a flame to. But when you really back out and look at it, it's like right now if the next administration ends up being from the Democrat Party, I think we're going to be in a cycle of every 4 years. It's going to go back and forth and back and forth. And as that happens, I think we'll see the radicalization of the schizophrenics and of the dyed in the wool identity politic ideologues that are actually, have traction and can be dangerous. We're just going to see that continue to the point where, we actually could have a civil war here. One of these parties could do something to the other on purpose, or, just by design or not, that would cause something like that. And that in the midst of all this geopolitical stuff, like, and one of the groups of people you didn't mention, that I think will also fall into this equation are the atheists. When we're talking about all these groups of, religious people, that religious ideologies that are heading towards some sort of apocalypse or end time or return or the Antichrist, red heifers, all this stupid stuff. You've got all these people that have been generationally disenfranchised from theology completely, to the point where it is its own theology now. And the only thing these people have to latch on to, I hope, are facts. And a lot of those people at some point, as they get older and older, are going to start, hearing conversations like this and go, you know what? Oh my gosh, both these guys are insane. And there's another country with another ideology puppeteering all this stuff and these other interests involved, to include military intelligence, to include international and national intelligence agencies, the Fortune 500, the Davos crowd. All of a sudden, once that all comes into play, and you actually can point the finger at those that are, benefiting from all of this, you've got a problem. You got a problem on your hands.
Look at this comment. I just saw this. I couldn't hold my laughter. The Speaker of the House in the U.S. thinks dinosaurs are on Noah's Ark.
Yeah, I know.
Fellows,
And I mean, I quite liked Mike Johnson when he was skewering Democrats over COVID. I must admit, I thought, wow, there's a guy with his head screwed on, but turns out he's a total nut job. And of course, he went to Columbia University and accused everybody who objects to genocide of hating all Jewish people.
So here's one. Hegseth, where meth meets inbreeding and Zio-evangelical end times fantasies. That's a science fiction film I don't want to see. Thank you very much. They have huge bunkers. We're effed, says Paul Ambrose. You can say that again, my friend. That's for sure. And it's all a lie, guys. The rapture is fake. World War III is real. And there is no lean Jebus coming back. Okay. Many say, some say, many an informed pundit say. So yeah, there's some interesting takes here. I have a solution, because we're all about solutions these days. Everyone complains. There's no solutions. There's no solutions. Well, we gave you a solution to the World War III issue. I have a solution to American democracy that's becoming like that pendulum that Hesher's talking about. Very simple. You change the presidential term from 4 years to 6 years. 4 years to 6 years. That will give any administration time to get their agenda done. And if they're successful, they'll get another 6. That's 12. Okay, let's do it like the Russians or some of these other countries. The problem with the West is, it's a very subtle point, but very important. Our default is tyranny. If you look at our history in Europe, in other places, it's tyranny. So this is why our liberal democracies are a reaction to our own tyranny in our history. Okay, so then now we say, oh, you have to switch the government every 4 years or every 2 years or whatever. Otherwise, you're not democratic. And being democratic is having like a senile, comatose president that doesn't even know what day it is. That's democracy. But Putin has been in power for 20 years. That's evil. This is not democratic. He's autocratic. Okay. There's worse things in the world than autocracy. Trust me. There's worse things in the world than autocracy. But look at the trajectory of Russia since the 1990s. It's beyond debate how far they've come in a very short space of time from being in the absolute gutter after the Iron Curtain fell. Look at China. I mean, we can't argue with the continuity of government there over a long period of time. It's impressive. Look at Hungary. Orban, 12 years, I think, or something like that. He's been in since 2012, I think, and he has been able to implement his agenda. Hungary is a model for a lot of European countries for a lot of policies. Couldn't do that if you're flipping the government every 4 years. You just can't get anything done. So if you have a weak central government, who then has the power? Corporations. So you have a strong central government in Russia, and the corporations come under the government, under the state. And same with China.
All this presupposes that the government is actually sane.
Yes, it does. No government's perfect, and no government is sane all the time. That's for sure. That's for sure. So anyway, I think there's a debate to have there about government, full stop, democracy. Just because we have a system, it's meant to work a certain way. Clearly, it's not working as intended. Why is it not working as intended?
Well, I mean, I think there's all sorts of other reasons. I mean, the distorting effect of money, first of all. The fact that in America, you've got the best democracy money can buy. To a lesser extent, that's the case in European countries as well. But as we all know, winning a seat in Congress, the Senate, or the White House is dependent on how much money you raise, and of course, making the right noises about certain key issues, which then mean that you get exposure on the legacy networks. We saw what happened to Ron Paul. We saw what happened to Dennis Kucinich. No insurgent candidate ever gets anywhere in the United States because they're just never given the oxygen of publicity, and then they fail to raise enough money, and so they end up in a negative spiral. So, U.S. presidents, as we've said many times before, are selected, not elected. And Joe Biden being a case in point, none more so than him.
Yeah. Well, we are living in a clown world, says Swim Against.
We are indeed. But it's a sort of joker, it's a sort of horror clown world. It's not a funny clown. It's the sad clown, the mask of doom clown.
Sam as I am, says Basil, Caligula would be jealous. He's talking about today's government and shenanigans. What do you think?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Definitely.
I mean, we've got much more deadly toys to play with these days.
We do, and more sophisticated post-op gender reassignment surgery techniques as well. There's a lot more. Caligula would be like, I think, he'd have a lot of fun, wouldn't he, in 2025?
Oh yeah, we have chemical synthesized drugs now. They didn't have that back then. All they had was
That's
plants.
right.
Yep. So interesting. Yeah, we have some, I think, very intelligent commenters in our stream. I'm surprised at the level of nuance. It's impressive. So it's good to know. It's good to see the conversations in here. I appreciate that. Mike Huckleberry, inbred Wafflehead Tom Cotton, Arkansas's best. Did you guys ever see that picture of Tom Cotton holding that famous picture of the U.S. soldier in a whole vat of gold bars in Iraq?
Yeah.
And that's Tom Cotton. Did you
That was
notice?
him.
That was him.
Wow.
That's Tom Cotton. So did he slip one of those in his, or did Israel take a bar for him back home, and that's how he got his start? I mean, who knows with these people, honestly, but it's like a nightmare. These are the people that have been rewarded and put into positions of total power. Unbelievable. It's like a nightmare, honestly. You couldn't make it up. It's like Black Mirror Legacy Edition. Yeah, so there's interesting stuff going on, guys. Yeah, Signalgate, my final thoughts on that. It was a setup. Now, this is Jeffrey Goldberg is anti-Trump to the hilt, okay? Anti-Trump to the hilt. Russiagate guy, one of the sort of progenitors of Russiagate. And so when I look at this, and we just look at the text chain here, so what was the result of this? If it was to embarrass the administration and possibly put one of these people on the chopping block, I think it was successful. So I think there's a partisan motivation, but I don't think that's the only motivation. I think the net of this is everyone's talking about the chats, but nobody's talking about the fact that this was an undeclared illegal war of aggression.
Exactly.
That's the big takeaway. So that Steam release valve was opened, and so any public angst or pushback should have come with this scandal, but didn't. So that's a signal, no pun intended, back to the White House, to the establishment, to the military industrial complex, to Israel, that the U.S. public is being acquiesced and is primed and supine enough for an attack on Iran. That's one way you can look at it. If you want to get really dark on the PR Machiavellian tactics.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so these types of leaks, if you notice, these leaks always have multiple functions. So yes, there's people that want to. So how would you get? Jeffrey Goldberg was motivated to be in there and to report on it for partisan reasons. He's an Israeli loyalist, former IDF prison guard, Jeffrey Goldberg. Okay, so he's on board with the attack on Iran. That's why he didn't release it before the attack. He had it. He could have sunk Trump. That would have been. You guys realize if you really hate Trump, just release that story before the military operation. Trump would never recover from that. Death to the administration, politically speaking, it would just be like an executioner's blow. So he's not a journalist, okay? He's a hack. So that means it was to damage Trump, but not destroy Trump.
Not fatally.
Discipline Trump. Discipline him for what? For what's coming.
While sticking to the goals of Israel, by the way. So it's like pretty crafty, actually, if you think about it, to have that happen, have it come out after the fact, and then have it, look like the Trump administration really stepped in it. Oh, it's terrible. How dare you? We're going to get Judge Boseve to, start an inquiry on this and all this stuff. But at the same time, no commentary. Everyone's worried about the war plans. And it's like, wait, what about the war?
That's right.
Most people don't realize that some of this stuff going on in Yemen is yet another ongoing slow motion genocide, not warp speed like it has been in Gaza. People have been dying there by the millions since 2014 or even further back than that. So, and no one seemed to really notice that, at least on the MAGA camp. I didn't see anybody being like, a few, but not many, saying, hey, so you guys are gloating about following a suspect into an apartment building and leveling the whole apartment building where dozens of people live, and you want people to cheerlead about that. So you're right. This does cause a really big sort of, dialectical conversation between the left and the right about signal and about, are these people competent and whatnot, but not very, very few people are saying, "Wait a minute, you bombed an apartment, a whole apartment building to get one guy? I thought you guys were the masters of surgical strikes and precision." And it's none of that kind of conversation is happening. It's all just, just the right left, bounce back between that dialectic. And it's so it was a great success in that regard. And one more thing about Goldberg, if I'm to believe that this guy doesn't have a direct line to CIA and FBI and Mossad after his career path and all the headlines that he's been involved with, which include everything, all the big grifts, all the big conspiracies of the mass media cartel, Goldberg and his outlet right there at the top, pushing every single one, suppressing Hunter Biden's laptop, pushing Russiagate, all this stuff he's been involved with, to the point where it's like, okay, you're the chief editor over there, and you used to work for the IDF, and and you push all these, rank lies and fake news over all these years, and we're to believe this all just happened organically, and this wasn't puppeteered by a proxy of an FBI or a CIA, if not them themselves, to Goldberg, maybe even with someone in that group that was supposed to be there participating.
Well, that's what Mike Waltz claimed on when he was trying to talk his way out of it, but I don't think so, because Goldberg himself was said he knew Mike Waltz, and they had been also previously talking. So someone's lying there. So
I love how Mike said it just sucked into my phone. Don't you hate that, Pat, when your phone just sucks in someone's contact information?
happens all the time.
Oh
Yeah.
man, that's the worst.
I mean, we just sit around all day thinking about how to solve that problem. It's just so commonplace. Not. Here's one for you, Brian. Social emotional learning with Donnie. You're talking about skiffs there in gory detail, and this person saying, "What's the story, Brian? Did he work in intelligence?" Well, not quite.
I could tell you, but then I'd have to kill you. No. I used to work in a university setting. I was a civilian employee at a naval university. So as a civilian, I worked there, and I worked on a research team. So I got really familiar with the way that kind of stuff works, because we did projects that had to use both high side and low side internet. If you know, you know. So I've been on there. I've been in those places. I know what it is to give, from 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. in a skiff is it's not fun.
Not fun at all. No. How much do you get from IPAC? Is the game of futile? I'm not sure. This is speaking in code there. I think he's talking rhetorically. And Socrates nailed the problem with democracy 2,500 years ago, and nothing has changed. Yes, please enlighten us about what Socrates said, or what you're referring to. Just a maverick. We'll bring Basil Valentine back up on stage. Yeah. So just the signal thing. A couple of people damaged from it, and what it does politically is that you can hold a sword over somebody's head from that, and because everybody is technically in violation of the Espionage Act. I think it's section 793D and 793F. And so if you intentionally share classified information, which anything to do with national defense information like battle plans is automatically considered classified. If you do it intentionally or even gross negligence, you're still liable. And third, if you don't report it to the proper authorities as soon as you know that happened, that's the third violation. All imprisonable. In fact, I think the last president just sent someone away for something just like that, or much less, in fact. So that's, they can hold that over Tulsi. I mean, I think so let me ask you guys this, because I want to put a bow on this for the moment. But out of all these people here, we'll take that comment down. But out of all these people here, you guys, who do you think was damaged the most in terms of the top actors from this scandal?
I'm gonna go with Mike Walls.
Yeah, that's a pretty safe pick. He looks like the one, either him or his PA added Jeffrey Goldberg, the journalist, to the chat group. So he's ultimately responsible. So he is compromised on some level. I personally think he's a bad actor. That's there's something about the guy that's just off. I can't even put my finger on it. But the fact Trump has so many of these clowns in his orbit is, to me, a huge problem in itself. Mike Waltz says, Hesher, what about you, Basil? Who do you think was damaged the most out of these main four actors?
Well, none of them come off with any dignity out of it at all, really. But I think Hegseth comes out as badly as anyone.
Yeah, I think so. I think they smell blood right now. They're kind of going after Hegseth, Basil. So that's I think Wall Street Journal or somebody. So Hegseth's wife has been coming to classified briefings with Pete. He's bringing the wife to work, guys. Like, that's kind of weird. Is it just me, or like I don't remember Ash Carter doing that, or Mark Esper, or Robert Gates?
This is part of the new politic, Patrick. You can't, again, you can't have the crusty old white dude whose wife is home making him a sandwich. You got to have the politician with the get going sort of, I'm involved. I mean, we've been seeing this for quite a while. I think this kind of started with Obama, really. I mean, it felt like they tried to sort of, paint that around Michelle quite a bit. But I mean, look at it now. Like even John Fetterman, when John Fetterman was, incapacitated, it was his wife. His wife was running everything. Like I did a deep dive on what his wife was up to during all that, and she may be in charge. She may be his handler in some way, shape, or form. Maybe the classic sense, maybe something a little more pedestrian. But and look at JD Vance. JD Vance just he's on a tour right now. He's on a world tour. He made those first comments about Signal at the first stop on his world tour, which was in Hawaii. And he's bringing the wife with him. They're stopping a couple other places, and then they go to Greenland. They went to Greenland, where apparently, while Doge is removing fraud and waste and abuse, America was funding some sort of dog sled race there in Greenland. And
Yeah, what was that all about? Dog sleds?
Yeah, I don't know. It's all very weird. But the wives,
that trip was massively scaled down to avoid protests.
Yeah, people in Greenland were not happy about it. The Greenland media, not too happy about it, but there were voices there that were okay with it, but they got sort of down pressed, and people didn't want to know that all this other stuff was going on with the dog race and all that. They made it was supposed to be a cultural visit, but I guess it's kind of a weak facade considering everything that Trump has been saying about Greenland and all that. And I'm still trying to latch on to why it's so important to them. And what I've figured out so far is I didn't know, but we already have a Space Force base there. So we have a Musk-oriented military base there in Greenland as it is already. And then I guess the rest of it's about strategic location of military stuff and maybe resources. I'm not sure, but this interest on it is I find very intriguing, and I'm sure it's going to come to more clarity as this unfolds. But yeah, the wives seem to be. I mean, look at Melania. Like she's with Donald Trump. When Donald Trump went to Los Angeles because of the fires, she's sitting there in the room with him. You know what I mean? And I think this is actually pretty smart as far as PR goes, because the wives are part of the branding. Everybody watches.
President. But that's expected for the president. The first lady, Nancy Reagan. There have been some pretty Hillary Clinton, very high. Laura Bush, not so much. Okay, and Michelle Obama, sort of, but not really. Okay, but there have been active first ladies in the past. So as far as Melania seeing out here, that's great. America is used to that. At least I grew up with a lot of that. Okay, but the vice president, no.
Secretary of State, all these guys, and all of them, their wives all have their wives all have this like
defense secretary wife. No,
they're all PR cutouts. I think that they're they're real people. Yes,
it's football wags, wives and girls.
Real housewives. I mean, if you want, okay, here's what I'm really ultimately getting at. If you want mainstream conservatives, MAGA people, you want to draw people to MAGA. It's just like taxes or cigarette smoking, right? You're only going to get half of the demographic if you're not advertising to the women. That's why propaganda came in and brought women in, brought feminism in, brought women into the tax bracket of the working people, gave them nicotine, gave them, alcohol, started advertising to them, because you double your consumer base when you advertise to both sexes. So I think that's ultimately what we're seeing here.
So guys, I'm going to put, so Hesher is saying that this is the new politics. That's the new politics. That type of thing right there. It's yep, Tom Cotton, that's right. So there's Pete Hegseth and all his tattoo glory. We the people. He's got it all, folks. Look at that. Gadsden snake. Don't tread on me. Crusader crosses on the right pectoral major. Then he's got the infidel. I haven't got the infidel tat. I'll get that in a moment. But yeah, Hesher, you're so right. This is like the image they want to. This doesn't inspire a lot of confidence. Me says I'm thinking this guy is a complete nut job. But that's just me. I guess I have different standards than I think a lot of people would agree with me though. This doesn't inspire a lot of confidence after watching the Signal chat and then seeing this. I don't know, guys. It's just not really, it's not working for me. What do you think? Does anybody have an opinion on this? Head of a $1.2 trillion department, the Pentagon, making policy. That's another takeaway, guys. It looked like they were voting on the war, but did that really happen? Or did the president already give it the green light and they're just having a corporate circle jerk attaboy? Because is that what I'm looking at?
That's
here?
what I think.
What do you think?
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. A circle jerk amongst dunderheads.
Like a performative kind of corporate.
It's a sort of frat boy.
Yeah.
You would think of it at that sort of level, really, except, of course, they're dealing with people's lives.
Yeah, well, let's not forget about that. Although people do forget about that. Yeah, that's a good point. So again, if I heard people talking with some level of knowledge, and I felt that they had a grip on geography and they understood who the quote Houthis are, and they understood why the Houthis were a problem for Israel, and the fact that Houthis stopped attacking shipping while there's a ceasefire. If I was confident that all these people had a grasp on these things, then I wouldn't feel this way. But I'm not confident. I feel like they don't have a grasp on it. And like, there's no way you can call the Houthis a terrorist organization. They haven't done any.
But I mean, that doesn't matter anymore. There's the other aspect of the new politics is that, all the sort of usual diplomatic language or, due process for evaluating international situations or anything, or different countries, all that's completely out of the window. I mean, the fact that you've got Trump saying that the US needs Greenland for its national security. I mean, the very idea that an American president would try and claim a huge landmass like that from another country, just sort of, on a whim. I mean, could you have imagined, any previous president, particularly in the 20th century, ever saying anything like that? So, if they decide that, Keir Starmer's government is terrorist, which they may do, then it's terrorist. They decide the European Union are terrorists, they're terrorists.
Look at the bottom. Look at the bottom.
There are no restraints anymore.
Do you see this comment by Rupert Fellows at the bottom of the screen? It says keying, that's that taking your key and dragging it on the side of a car. Keying a Tesla is now terrorism.
There you go.
Rupert Fellows. That's
what
right. Elon can make it a terrorist act. Although it's probably quite hard to key one of those, because don't they have quite a super sort of titanium body or something?
I have no idea. Did you notice that people are rebranding their Tesla cars? I was talking about this on the Pulse the other day. I saw this reel of cars. One of them was a Cybertruck that had Toyota written across the back, and another one had all the Tesla badges taken off and replaced with Honda Civic badges and stuff. This is just comical to me. This whole thing with Tesla has become so freaking funny and so circus like. It's hilarious to me to watch people that were probably driving a Tesla a few months ago just lose their stuff. And I don't know. And of course, the media focuses on it so much. I get more than I need of it. It's like I know what's going on here. I don't need it to be chalked up to terrorism or anything like that. I mean, idiotic people. A car literally with 4 cameras all around it, taping whatever you're doing. Taping the schizophrenic lunatic coming up and dropping a Molotov on it. I mean, we don't have time for this kind of entertainment, guys, but they just keep throwing it at us.
Yeah, Teslas look like tanks. Very strange. Yeah, I fully agree. That's Mima Flowers. I think it's an ugly car. Yeah, it's unique. But when you see like 100 of those, Elon sent out 100 of them, and they put some music behind it, and he retweeted it, and everyone said, "Yeah," like. And I'm thinking to myself, so you guys were all like against Klaus Schwab and the globalists and the technocracy, but now technocracy and conformity is cool. And being hooked up to the grid, to the matrix, like driving a car that's literally jacked into the matrix 24/7. That's cool because it's Elon's car. And Elon's one of us. So that we love the technocracy. That's what these guys are saying. That car has no personality. My 1978 Dodge Dart has more personality than a Tesla Cybertruck. I'm sorry.
Nobody wants them secondhand either because of the battery deterioration. Anyway, I've got to go in a second, Patrick. So I just wanted to focus quickly on the story from the UK about the Gestapo raiding the Friends Meeting House of all places, the Quaker headquarters in London, in order to arrest 6 girls who were eating breadsticks and hummus. But according to police, who are in danger of endangering public order, these girls are from Youth Demand, the new campaigning group that is anti-genocide primarily, and apparently they were planning on disrupting London in April. Now, I've got a picture here, which I think I can put up. Can I? No, I can't.
I'll bring that up. Yeah. This is a picture.
There we go. That's the damage done by police who broke in to the room where the meeting was being held at the Friends Meeting House, causing damage, as you can see. And subsequently, the following day, 4 more people were arrested in London and 1 in Exeter. 30 policemen, 30, raided the Friends Meeting House, which is a place of peace. For anybody familiar with the Quakers, they've got Friends Meeting Houses all over the world. But 30 cops armed with tasers smashed their way in and arrested 6 young women. The doors at the London branch of the religious group were broken down as the group sat in a circle discussing Gaza. So that's where we are in Britain now. And this, of course, follows hard on the heels of Richard Medhurst's arrest, the roughing up of Sarah Wilkinson and Asa Winstanley, David Miller's detention at the airport when returning from Beirut. So, if you object too strongly to genocide, or you want to draw the public's attention to it in peaceful protest, then you come in the crosshairs of the new fascist British police.
That's right. Basil Valentine. Yeah, thank you that's a kind of a disturbing. When you're going after the Quakers, I think at that point things are pretty bad. I think
I mean, the Quakers, I've used believe it or not, I've actually used that building myself.
Friends in
to
King's
hold
Cross?
meetings in.
Friend's house in King's Cross?
No, it's in St Martin's Lane. It's in Covent Garden. And they let it out effectively to interested groups. You can just rent the room. Paul Parker of the Quakers in Britain said he could not recall anyone being arrested at a Quaker meeting house in living memory. The forceful removal of young people holding a protest group meeting clearly shows what happens when a society criminalizes protest. Freedom of speech, assembly, and fair trials are an essential part of free public debate, which underpins democracy, he said. Absolutely. The Quakers, of course, believe in peace. Very dangerous concept these days. Can't have people believing in peace, but it mirrors, of course, what's going on in the United States with the similar crackdown on any form of dissent against genocide.
Yeah, very disturbing. Thank you for bringing that to our attention. If you're in the UK, take notice of that one, please. The Quakers are pacifists, just putting that out there. And they have a long and actually very important role in British history.
That's right. And it's very difficult to fault them for, whatever your personal religious affiliation, and you might not like aspects of what they said. Of course, they came out of that 17th century Puritanism movement, John Wesley and all that. And a lot of Quakers went to the United States back in the day. Quakers support the right to non-violent public protest, acting themselves from a deep moral imperative to stand up against injustice and for our planet. Many have taken direct action over the centuries, from the abolition of slavery to women's suffrage and prison reform. Now, Yvette Cooper, the Home Secretary, went on the news programs this morning. She was challenged about this. This story has at least received some coverage in the legacy media. And of course, she said the police have operational independence, that they can, do what they like. But we all know that orders like this, 30 policemen to arrest 6 young women, the orders for this kind of behavior come down from on high.
Yeah, the board of deputies went after David Miller. Did you see that? And
That's
basically
they're demanding he be arrested.
and arrested, investigated, and so forth. So he's already lost his job. He's already been brigaded by these people as a tenured or fairly well-credentialed academic at Bristol University. But that's not enough. That's not enough. They need to absolutely destroy him. And
Well, he won his case, of course. He'll be getting some
Yeah.
compensation from Bristol University.
yeah, he won his case. They tried to wrangle him back into appeal and so forth, but they're trying to basically attack him for a tweet. Basically, he's saying that Zionism needs to be opposed,
Dismantled.
dismantled, and then people need to be brought to justice for their crimes. Well, you could say the same thing about other extremist ideologies, and it's perfectly plausible and acceptable in our society, but not that extremist ideology. And that's kind of the problem.
Well, this is it. This is what I mean about parallel realities. Keir Starmer should be arrested, along with David Lammy, for being accomplices to war crimes and genocide.
Well, yeah, I mean,
Declassified have got a great big file on the extent to which surveillance flights out of RAF bases in Cyprus have been gathering intelligence and passing it to the Israelis and indeed to the US for the bombing of Yemen as well.
I saw that Mark Kennard posted quite a bit. Matt Kennard, had posted quite a bit on that. I mean, that's if you're still abiding by these institutions that you all signed on to, or not.
We don't anymore. This is the whole point. The new politics is that we do what we like. The rules-based order is we make up the rules and we order you to follow them.
Sure seems like it. Thank you, Basil. Basil Valentine, the Pulse.
I'm back
today.
at 10 a.m. UK time tomorrow morning on the Pulse.today.
Okay, Monday morning.
Where I will be joined by Swedish geopolitical analyst Mats Nilsson.
Mats Nilsson, one of my favorite pundits. You're very lucky to be able to spend time with Mats. Basil Valentine, the Pulse.today. Appreciate you. And
thank you, Patrick.
Your final thoughts. You might have to just chip off. Go ahead and let yourself out the door if you need to, Mr. Valentine. And Hesher, your final thoughts. We're probably going to wrap up this session, but it's been extremely thought-provoking, interesting.
Yeah, it really has. This has been, just a whirlwind since November, pretty much. Things are happening really fast. See a lot of public opinions sort of morphing, kind of really seeing the effects of the whole "you are the media" thing, and the influencers and ambassadors out there on X and various other platforms. Not to leave out the podcasters. Oh my gosh, so many high budget podcasts going these days that are parading, doing the dog and pony show, parading a lot of these talking points around, a lot of these people around, these personalities. And I don't know, man. I don't have a good feeling geopolitically. I don't have a very good feeling. We've definitely seen some good moves within the country, though. That's been nice to see some, at least see some campaign promises be made good on. See some of the most odious and draconian policies being relaxed, and that kind of thing. So, a lot of people are very satisfied here in the United States when they don't look outside the borders of the country. But, I guess I will encourage those people to make sure you're looking outside the borders of this country, and make sure you're looking at affiliations that this country has with a very open mind, because you're going to start hearing things. I mean, if you've made it this far into this show, I'm preaching to the choir, but those around us are going to start hearing things that will challenge their worldview, that will challenge the NPC download that they have received, their updates, a couple months ago, 3-4 months ago, if we go all the way back to the election. You're seeing the dissonance right now among, the disenfranchised on the left that just cannot believe, what they're seeing. It's get used to that, though, because it's coming back our way probably in the next 4 years. And we're gonna have a lot to break down. So stay calm, everybody. Keep with us here at Sunday Wire. Keep visiting 21stcenturywire.com. Get on over there and become a member. Help us, continue this analysis, because that's what we intend to do. We definitely still see a void in the media, and we do our best to put our biggest media combat boots on, and get in there and start filling that space. So we really appreciate all the wonderful commentary. Shouts out to everybody in the various live streaming video chats, the 21 Wire chat and the Boiler Room /ACR Discord. It's great to see everybody in there. I love the comments. Thanks for getting them on the stream there, Pat. It's been a great show. And we'll be doing, there's a chance we'll be doing a pop-up Boiler Room this evening. We'll have to see how today shakes out. So there could be a broadcast tonight. We're back on X. We were off X for a few weeks. So keep an eye at Hesher Media for live Boiler Room pop-ups. Hit the notification thing on there if you're bold enough to actually allow notifications from X on your stuff, so you can see that. Same at Rumble. You can subscribe to Boiler Room over at Rumble. We got a new episode of the Daily Ruckus out. It's an epic. It's like part one of the epic final episode of the series he's been working on. So that's up on the website, alternatecurrentradio.com. There you go. It's graphic. And we're coming up on the 10-year anniversary of Boiler Room pretty soon here, within the week, I think, within days. So stay tuned. Follow at Hesher Media and alternatecurrentradio.com. I'm also broadcasting at the Pulse, doing their radio only stream. So Pulse Radio 2 is where you'll find me Monday through Friday, up there from noon to 2 Pacific, from 2 to 4 Central, and from 3 to 5 Eastern time. So you can find me over there at the Pulse doing old school radio. So I'd love to see everybody over there. And thanks for having me today, Pat.
No, it's been our pleasure. Thank you for coming. Thank you for your input on all of these topics, and best of luck with your week coming up and everything that you got to do. And you can find Hesher again at alternatecurrentradio.com, and also the Boiler Room, the Pulse.today as well. Follow him at Hesher Media, at Hesher Media. And we'll probably, I think his ID there is in our Twitter stream as well. But follow him for links there, as well as just go to alternatecurrentradio.com. There's a link to that website on the top of our show page every week. Just click on that. It'll take you straight there. Support alternate Current Radio Network as well. Great content creators, great community there. Think about getting involved and supporting them. Thank you very much, Hesher. Take care. Sayonara. Keep an eye out for that man, as well as Mr. Basil Valentine for what they're going to be doing during the week, this week, and every week, as well as us. Very busy this week. Midweek Wire on Wednesday had an epic broadcast with Freddie Ponton, really breaking down this kind of unholy alliance between France and Israel, the nuclear program. Both countries had a secret nuclear program, believe it or not. I was wondering how the French got their nukes. I didn't realize they got them from Israel, and Israel stole theirs from the US. It's a great story, folks, and it's all true, and it all leads back to this. All roads lead back to JFK. And again, watch Ryan Dawson's fantastic film called Numek, free on Rumble, how Israel stole the bomb from the US and killed JFK. It's all there, ladies and gentlemen, all footnoted, all documented. A lot of these are government documents as well. So it's just that somebody's gone through the trouble of connecting the dots. Thank you, Ryan Dawson, for that great piece of work. And thank you guys also for tuning in this week. Everybody in the comment section, really appreciate it. We'll try to do more of the sharing of the comments. I know I don't do that every week, probably because I'm multitasking here. We have people doing different things, but that's one of the things I haven't really been able to make time for. But we're going to start doing that every week as well. So appreciate you guys. We're getting all those comments fed in through like one master stream with our streaming company. And then we're able to kind of like survey those during the conversation and bring them on screen. So we really appreciate the sense of humor and some of you guys trying to keep things light, but also making some pretty heady comments. So that's all great. We appreciate it. Also, UK Column News. I'm back in the studio there doing Friday News with Mike Robinson. We'll usually post that episode up on our website as well with a link, again, back to ukcolumn.org. Great media outlet, great team there. Obviously, there needs no introduction for those of you who follow independent media. And again, follow us on X. I've been doing these Saturday night streams, Friday and Saturday night. One of those nights, I'm probably hosting a stream. This was a big one on Iran. And we had some pretty powerful speakers and went through, I think, some of the best sort of a lot of debating a lot of these points and really important conversation. So you got to get into this. We all need to get into this conversation and get in now. And I told you about my solution. I'll be putting that up on social media as well as releasing a couple more videos in the next 24 hours on this very topic. So look, you guys, that's all we got time for today. Again, I'm Patrick Henningsen, your host. Appreciate you guys. Thank you for tuning into the Sunday Wire. This is episode 541 of this weekly omnibus news and analysis radio program brought to you here on ACR. Take care, you guys. I hope you have a great week. Thank you again for tuning in. And also think about supporting us. Look, if you like this type of content, what we're rolling out midweek and what we're going to also add another program I was telling you, hopefully this week it'll happen, a third weekly show, more informal, more kind of casual conversation outdoors, but when just to give a different look to what we're doing, add a third program during the every week. So we're going to do that. I'm trying to organize that, but thank you guys. If you like this, if you like the sort of stuff that we're doing, the type of content we're doing, please consider donating. Even better, subscribe and become a member at 21wire.tv. Just go to our website. There's a link on my X profile, goes to 21stcenturywire.com. And there's different ways you can donate and support us. So, just get involved if you can. Subscribe and become a member monthly. There's all sorts of options there, including different ways that you can donate and support us. So we really need your support, you guys. We really do. We're building out a team, and you'll see the type of content. We were putting a lot of shorts out. We're going to continue putting those shorts out on all those platforms, Instagram, TikTok. We're building up followers on all these platforms, YouTube Shorts as well, Telegram. So we're building out all of these different platforms. And we need your help to do that. It's a lot of work, and it takes a lot of manpower, let's say, and woman power. So if you guys can find it within your heart to help us, support us. We just finished a winter fundraising drive, and we appreciate everybody that supported us. You guys were amazing. Obviously, we didn't get to our goal. Probably got little less than halfway to our goal. It means that we got to do a lot more work on marketing and reaching out to people and things like that. But it's hard to balance the fundraising against making the content. And my philosophy is, at least it has been for over 10 years. We've been doing this since 2009, but since we've been doing the regular shows, it's been about 2013. And my philosophy is always, we're going to put as much as we can out for free. Almost everything we do is out for free. So we're doing that public service because we want to inform people, keep people up to date, offer analysis on critical issues so people can be better informed, get those ideas out there. And so that's always been our position on that. As we produce more content, we're going to be able to probably afford to, because we'll have enough free content out there, we'll be able to put some more premium content behind membership walls on our membership site, 21wired.tv. We are absolutely working on that now, but we're still rolling out the regular scheduled programming to getting all the sort of bugs dealt with on these. We just added more live streams to our live streaming platform portfolio this week. So we're on Odyssey as well as BitChute and Rumble, YouTube, Facebook Live, and so forth. So we're going to add another live stream as well to that. There's a couple of other platforms we've been looking at that have good communities, and we want to be there as well. So like all these things, it requires resources, time, effort, money, and we need your support now more than ever. If you like what we're doing, want to see us do more and expand a little bit, that's what we plan on doing. And so that's what we've been doing, and appreciate you guys all the way. So thank you very much for everything. That's all we got time for on the program. We'll drop a few hot music videos for you after we finish here. But as far as we're concerned, that's it. That's the show. Take care, you guys. All the best.
For in the final analysis, we all inhabit this small planet, and we are all mortal.
Lately I've been watching the world gone mad. Brothers and sisters full to take a stand, to hate their fellow man, another man. Divide and conquer is the acronym plan. Distract the people, control the story. Don't believe your lying eyes, you know me. Stay in power no matter what. Play with the doomsday clock. Turn a blind eye and gather your trust. Pushing us to turn to good. Corruption and lies. sisters, we're being divided.